The one, the only, Bencio Good afternoon, and welcome to Ideally Speaking, part of Yeshiva YouTube, the 10 really dumb mistakes that very smart couples make, a Torah-based guide to a successful marriage by Rabbi Ben-Zion Schaefer. In the first part of chapter 3, we talked about love and what is the definition of love. I titled my talk about it, do you love yourself or you love your wife? And Rabbi Ben-Zion Schaefer thinks that to love a person is to take care of that person. And I said loving a person is you love them for yourself, what they do for you. That is to love a woman. You love the good things about her that make you happy with her. That's really what love means. Love is always for yourself. Love is always directed at yourself. You love fish because you love how they taste. You love steak because you love how they taste. You don't love steak like the mashgiach said that if you love steak, you would dress it up in clothes and give it back to the butcher and say, "Here, I give a present to the butcher." No, you wouldn't do that. That's not love. When someone says he loves steak, it doesn't mean anything. You know, what was he trying to imply? This mashgiach. I'm referencing a story that he quoted in the first part of this chapter, where a bachar in yeshiva was eating fish on Shabbos, and he seemed to love the fish. He asked the kid, "You love the fish?" He said, "Yeah, I love the fish." He said, "No, you don't love the fish." This is the mashgiach of the yeshiva, the chevra in yeshiva. I don't love it. If you love the fish, you would dress it up, you would take care of it, you would sleep next to it, you would feed it worms. I don't know, you feed it. No, when it's the common vernacular, do you love fish means do I love it for myself? Come on, what kind of question is it? What are we talking about over here? All right, so let's talk about something else today. The second half talks about respect. And according to the author, respect, and he derives it from the Rambam, respect has to precede love in a marriage. If you don't have respect, you can never love somebody. And he talks about the ongoing problem seems to be with every couple, which is true, that they don't respect each other. They don't respect each other. He says people, even married couples, they'll meet their friends, they go meet family. They're so respectful to them. They're so nice to them. They're considerate. There was a study done, he brings, that they had couples argue about something, and then each member of the couple would speak to a third person about the same issue, and they're more respectful to the other person, and they didn't argue about them. They heard their point legitimately, and when they argue with them, they did it in a more respectful manner. But when they're doing it themselves, they're really not respectful to each other. He says, sadly, I've witnessed exchanges between spouses that are anything but benign. For example, Ruchi, that's the stupidest thing I ever heard in my life. And the wife says back, stop, David, that's ridiculous. And if you heard these words in a vacuum, the author says, you might assume these two people hate each other, but then you find out they don't. In fact, they're quite fond of each other, but without realizing that they're eroding the fabric of the relationship. Yes, I agree. Respect is important. Do I think respect precedes love? I don't think that it's related to love at all, to be honest with you. Based on my definition of what love actually is, respect is irrelevant to love. Respect is a totally different scenario, and it depends on totally different things. My definition of respect for somebody, and the reason there's no respect in marriages is basically the same, it's coming from the same point, is that in every marriage is like this, is that I'll tell you the truth. This is the honest truth. It's sad, it's harsh truth to hear, but women are much better than men at this world. They're just much better. They're innately much better. Why is that? Because women don't think so much. The Gemara says, Nashim daiten kalos. They're lightheaded. So men read this Gemara, men are better than women, Nashim daiten kalos. But what the Gemara is really telling you is that women are smarter at this world than man. Why are they smarter? Because they don't think so much. They don't overthink things. They can just make decisions much easier. The key to being a successful person in this world, because that's what Bechira Chavshis really is decision making. That's all it comes down to. That's what makes a human being. The better a decision maker you are, you have to make quick decisions and you have to make correct decisions. The better decision maker you are, the more successful you'll be in life. To the degree that you're good at making decisions, usually will be the degree that you succeed in life. And that includes making good decisions and sticking to your decisions. And if need be, you realize you're wrong, regretting your decisions and redoing it because you're humble enough to realize you do make mistakes and you will fix things. That's part of tshuva. That's really what tshuva is. But women are much better. Men overthink things too much, and they're so convinced about their decision, it's hard for them to retract. They're stubborn men. Women, if they make a mistake, they're not so interested in honor, right? They're not interested. Men are very interested in their honor. They're worried about their honor and being respected, both by their wives and by their peers and by the world. They're very interested in their honor. And when they say something, even though it's refuted by nature or refuted by the facts on the ground, they're gonna be very stubborn and not retract from that. Women, okay, I made a mistake. Who cares? They're not worried about their honor. So they make decisions much quicker. They make better decisions, and they're able to retract their decisions much easier if they made a mistake, which makes them a lot smarter in this world than men. And until you get married, you don't realize that. You don't realize that. When you even have your girlfriend, let's say, right? If you're not living together, right, you're not forced to see who is the better decision maker. Once you start living together, so you see who the better decision maker is. Now, if you're not married to each other, it doesn't bother you as much because you always have the ability to just opt out. But once you're married, you tie the knot. So you can't opt out anymore. And it bothers men. Deep down, it bothers them so much. You don't know how much it bothers men. I was bothered very much by this at the beginning of the marriage. You feel like the wife is controlling you. There's two ways that men react to women being better than them. Women are always better than the man. No matter which woman it is, no matter which man it is, it's always be better. So there's two ways men react. One way men react is that they remain a slave and obedient and let their wife lead because their wife know how to lead, right? They let their wife lead. They can make all the important financial decisions. They can be giving the biggest piskei halacha in the world. But when it comes home, it comes to picking what's for dinner, to changing the kids into their clothes, to changing their diapers, to bathing the kids, to choosing, what sofa to get, to choose where to put the pictures on the wall. Men are awful at these decisions. They're awful. So most men, right, either they say, oh, listen to their wife, and they realize the truth. They're emistic people, they're truthful people, and they realize their wife is better. So they let their wife lead, which is the right decision to make for the man. But there's most husbands don't like that. They don't like feeling inferior to their wives. What man lets a woman rule over him? So they go and they silence their wives. They silence them. And there's different ways of silencing your wife. There's domestic abuse. Some people unfortunately resort to physical abuse. I've seen it. Even in the frum world, I've seen it in my own wife's family. Husbands, their wife speaks up and gives them advice, unwarranted advice, and thought of something quicker than them. They hit their wife. They stop talking to me like that, and they'll shut their wives up. Whether it's very forceful words or even with their hands or their body, they'll abuse their wives, and it could be in the bedroom also. They'll abuse their wives in the bedroom. So men are stronger than women. So most men do not like being slaves inferior to their wives. They feel like being controlled by their wives. Men feel controlled by their wives because the wives are running their lives for them. And it hurts them deep down inside. So from the first, 4 years of my marriage, I knew this was true. But you know what? I said, listen, my wife makes the better decisions. Let her make the decisions, I was upset, if my wife disrespected me or something like that. That's the reason women disrespect men. They don't do it consciously. Women are not worried about honor. They're not worried about being better than their husband. They disrespect their husband is because their husband's lousy at making decisions. He has an interesting story over here. First of all, he starts off the second half of the chapter. He said about his Rebbe, Rav Alter Hanoch Leibowitz, Zatzal, and his first Rebbitzin did not have children. The Talmidim were their children. As a result, I spent a lot of time in their home and got to see their marriage up close. I don't think anyone treated the Rosh Yeshiva with more reverence than the Rebbitzin did. I never heard her call him by his first name. She always addressed him in the third person, the Rosh Yeshiva. What does the Rosh Yeshiva think? She would wait on him hand and foot. When he wasn't feeling well, she watched over him like a hawk. Her life was the Rosh Yeshiva. So his wife treated her husband, the Gadol Hador, one of the Gedolim apparently, at least according to this author, as a very respectful Talmud Chacham. He should be treated. He deserves a Talmud Chacham. He said an interesting story. When I was about 40, I came to the crossroads of my life. I had begun the shmooze under the Rosh Yeshiva's direction as a side project. As the shmooze grew in popularity, I was still a high school rebbe, and between spending time with Talmud and preparing shir and my new responsibilities with the shmooze, it was difficult to balance everything. I made an appointment with the Rosh Yeshiva to ask for guidance. When I arrived at their apartment, the Rebbetzin greeted me and led me to the dining room. As the Rosh Yeshiva and I sat down to discuss the issue, I could hear the Rebbetzin washing dishes in the kitchen. After explaining my dilemma, I asked the Rosh Yeshiva what he felt I should do. He thought a moment and said, I think you should stop teaching. I think you should leave the classroom and devote yourself full-time to the shmooze. At that point, I heard the water in the kitchen stop. With the towel over her arm, the Rebbetzin walked in, looked at the Rosh Yeshiva and said, is the Rosh Yeshiva sure? The Rosh Yeshiva put his hand on his beard, thought a moment and said, yes, I think so. I want you to appreciate, the author says, what has just transpired. The Rosh Yeshiva was a bastion of Das Torah. He was one of the Gedolei Yisrael. His Talmud, a Rebbe on his own right, telling himself, comes to ask a life-altering question. The Rosh Yeshiva thinks and then states his opinion. Then, without invitation, his Rebbetzin walks in and questions his judgment. In some circles, that would be considered mutiny. He's the Rosh Yeshiva. He's a Gadol. Question his judgment? Chutzpah. But that wasn't the Rosh Yeshiva, how the Rosh Yeshiva viewed it. He heard her opinion, thought about it, and calmly said, let me think. Yes, I think so. At that moment, I understood their marriage. As much reverence as the Rebbetzin had for the Rosh Yeshiva, he had for the Rebbetzin. Okay, interesting story. You can draw your own conclusions about the story. I will say this, that he's right. The wife of the Rosh Yeshiva disrespected her husband completely in front of one of his closest Talmidim to question his opinion. She has no right to do that. So you're going to tell me that this Rebbetzin respected her husband the most of anybody else. Now, he's a Rosh Yeshiva. He was a Gadol, according to the author, and he had a lot of Talmidim. Talmidim gave him a lot more respect than his wife did. But that one example is enough. You know, the fact that she calls him Rosh Yeshiva and she takes care of him, a lot of that was done in front of other people. Like he mentioned, when other people are around, you act differently. You don't want to show the ugly side. But this wife, just like any other woman, would disrespect her husband, you know. And where did I read this? I was reading it here? Maybe I was reading it here. You know, he said in this book, he said in this chapter over here, he says, Talmidei Chachamim, you see this so many times. I've seen this in my own work with couples. A man can be a serious Talmid Chacham, someone whose opinion is respected far and wide, a big Rosh Yeshiva, a big Gadol Hador, but at home everything is different. If he says something to his wife, she acts like she didn't hear it. I've seen this myself. When someone else tells her the exact same thing, she claims, oh, that's a great idea, I never thought of it that way. Talmidei Chachamim get disrespected so much in their house. You know why? Because they're awful in their marriages and they're awful in their house. It's just the way it is. They're spending all their time with the Talmidim, all the time learning Torah. They have no time to dedicate to making decisions in the house. Like I said, the first 4 years of my marriage, my wife disrespected me. But like every wife, they always disrespect the husband because the husband is weak. And they just do it. They don't do it out of contempt for their husband. They do it just because someone needs to make a decision and, you know, you're making the wrong decision. And the second reason women disrespect their husband is because the only man that a woman can truly respect is an alpha male or a sigma male. If you're not an alpha male, and 99.99% of the world is not an alpha male, they're not going to respect you. Women want the best. They want the best. Just like in Shidduchim, right? There's a Shidduch crisis, right? All the girls are after the best top bachra. The best. It's a little bit of a microcosm for the whole world, really, the dating world at large, not just the Jewish world. They want the best bachra. Now, in learning, you want the guy who's the biggest masmid, the guy who will learn the most hours, who learned the most years at Brisk. I don't know, the best family, has meant the most rabbanim in his family. That makes the best bachar, and all the girls want that boy because of his family, because of his learning ability. But in the real world, women want the alpha male. They want the man who's strong. Now, strong doesn't mean it's muscular. Muscular men does not make them strong. No matter how many muscles you have, no matter how many cars you can pick up, It doesn't make you a strong person. Only your character and your personality can make you a strong person. It basically means to be confident, and if applicable, if you can, be a cool person. If you're cool and confident, you're an alpha male. That's what it is. And you have strong opinions, and you're funny, and you can take over a room and win over other men in conversation. You always win if you're an alpha male. So that's a strong man, and women want that strong man. And they know that's the only man that a woman can respect. A woman will never respect a man. They might feign it. They might try to show that they respect in front of other people. A woman will never respect a man who's not an alpha male. So because of those two reasons, women are better at decision making than men, especially about the minutiae in life that you have to deal with in a household. They're much better at that. And most men are not alpha males. So women are always going to disrespect the husband. It's going to happen naturally. You can't watch over it. You can try as much as you want, but it's just the natural being a human being. That's what's going to happen. And when men get a disrespect, they hate it because men want it the most. Just like a woman wants to feel that she's taken care of in a marriage, a man wants respect. But it's so hard to get respect because unless you have two of those qualities, right? Even if you're an alpha male, if you're not good at decision making, eventually the wife she might want you as a husband, but after living together for a while, she's going to disrespect you because she's better at making decisions, and she's going to interfere. She's going to question your opinion. If you make a decision, she's going to make a better decision than you. So it leads men to disrespect their wives back because they want to control their wives. They don't want to be controlled by their wife. So the way they control their wife is by disrespecting the wife back, and sometimes abusing them, whether it be verbally or physically, and taking that control back. So that's what most men do. Most men do not like to be controlled by their wife. So either verbally or physically, they abuse their wives. And that's just what happens. That's why most marriages suffer after a while, because the longer it persists, this is more of a problem. So respect is a big problem in marriage. It's a huge problem in marriage, and it'll always be a problem in marriage. And, the woman will disrespect the man first, and the man who feels he deserves respect will disrespect the woman in turn to gain control. It's a battle of control ultimately, but the only one looking for control is the man. Women don't look for control. They want to be controlled by the man. That's what a woman wants. A woman wants to be dominated by the man. That's what a woman wants. They want to be subdued by the man. Just like most men can't do it. Most men are not strong enough to do that. So what ends up happening is the woman rule over the man. If the man doesn't like it, then he subdues the woman, in a forceful way, not a manly way. He does it in a way that's not right, a way that's not fair. So that's really what respect is, and it has nothing to do with love. He talks about, the Rambam says, first he derives from the Rambam that first you have to respect your spouse, and then you have to love them. I think they're two totally different places in marriage. Loving your wife or a woman loving her husband has something to do with the positive qualities of that person, and that brings you together. But respect is working in the opposite direction, where it's basically, weakening that love. It's always going to weaken that love. And meaning you can try your best. We know that you should respect each other. He does give good advice over it. He says, as much as I hate to spell it out, let me lay out some basic rules of conduct. He says good advice. Don't make fun of each other. Never make fun of your wife. Don't mock each other. Don't mock her. And don't make jokes at each other's expense. You could joke around. You should joke around with your wife, but not at each other's expense. Not in front of other people. He says the wrong thing. He says you should make fun of yourself instead. No, I don't believe that. Never make fun of yourself. Never. That's the worst. It's worse to make fun of yourself than to make fun of your wife. Because when you make fun of yourself, you destroy your own self-worth and your own self-value. But they're totally different things. Love brings you closer, and respect, it's usually disrespect, weakens the marriage. You can feign respect. You can try to act it out and to give respect. A lot of people do this when other people are in the house. They show respect to their spouse. And you can try to do it when you're in private, but we're human beings, and our natures just take over the longer we're together. So it's really a problem that's at the root of every marriage. And the only real way to stay married with this problem of disrespect, both from the woman to the husband and the husband to the man, is either to earn the woman's respect, which most men are unable to do. Because if a woman really respects you, my wife respects me for sure, 100%. I mean, she asked me decisions in the house. She asked me where to put the painting. She asked me where to put the picture. She asked me what color should be the carpet, what a cover, everything that a woman would care about. She asked me. My wife asked me to make the whole decision. I make every decision in the house. She wants my opinion. That when a woman asks for a husband's opinion, especially that minutiae in daily life, she respects that guy. When the Rebbetzin over here said the Rosh Hashiva made a decision for somebody else in the dining room while his wife is washing the kitchen, and she jumps in and says, "Are you sure about that?" That is the ultimate disrespect. There's no way his wife was asking him decisions. What do you think we should have? What do you recommend I cook for dinner, or give to the children for dinner? Hopefully, most women know to ask what the husband wants for dinner and try to cook them what they want. But things that between them that they both have to deal with together, I'm not going to ask his opinion. So unfortunately, that's the way it is. The only way, in my opinion, to get rid of the problem of disrespect between them is just to ignore it. To downplay it. Don't get worked up about it. The wife is going to innocuously or disrespect the husband, not because she chooses to, just because she can't respect the husband. It's human nature. She can't respect the husband, so just ignore it if you're a man. Don't be controlling. Don't abuse her, and also don't disrespect her. There's no reason to. And if you come naturally, because she disrespected you, to disrespect her, so the woman should try to ignore it also. But I believe usually when the men disrespect the wife, it's a conscious decision. It's not something which happens naturally. The woman happens naturally by accident. They don't mean to do it. But men disrespect their wives on purpose to gain control in the marriage. So if you're a man, just ignore it. And, your wife makes her decisions. Go along with her decisions. I don't know. That's just being honest and truthful. You might feel controlled in your life, but you'll have a happier marriage if you're not able to make decisions by yourself or you don't make them quick enough. Let your wife make the decisions. Ignore it and just go on. And this is what the Rosh Hashiva did. Rav Leibowitz, he ignored the fact that his wife disrespected him. And that was actually not a bad idea. I don't know what happened in the rest of their life, but ignoring is probably the only option. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed today's lecture. See you in the next one.